Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tech Show with Daryoush. My name is Daryoush, your host. Our guest Kurt Roskopf and Emily Goldmer are our guests tonight. It is Christmas night. Everyone is busy. Merry Christmas, and I wish you all the best and enjoy the time with your family. Tonight we are going to talk about the installation of the Linux operating system, which is widely used as a server, as a main internet server in so many hosting companies, and also many people are using it desktop, as a desktop operating system, either next to a Windows operating system or sometimes as the only operating system on their computers. Yes, as I said, you can install Linux next to the Windows operating system. You can have your Linux in both Windows and Linux in one computer, in one hard drive. It, it is better to have two separate hard drives and install Linux in one hard drive and Windows on another hard drive. But you can do it on the same hard drive too. But I don't recommend it because uh, the file system of both operating systems are different. You need a lot of space for each of them for your files and installation scripts and files. So it is better to keep them on the separate hard drives. And also, if there is any hard disk problems, uh, if you do not have both operating systems in one hard drive, uh, maintenance of the hard drive is much easier and more reliable. There are different installations of the different distributions of Linux operating system. Uh, each of them have, all of them have an installation or setup program or script that they run you through all the steps of the installation of the operating system. Some of them are very easy to use, and some of them requires lots of technical knowledge. You must have documentations of your uh, hardwares next to you, and because all the time some information are needed. The mainboard documents, the graphic card document, the network adapter document, technical information, even the monitor, the keyboard, if you use a wireless keyboard, or all of them are needed. Most of the distributions that are useful for the desktop environment, they have very nice and intuitive installation uh, windows like this that you see. You can select, this is for the Linux Mint. From the very beginning, you can select to install Linux Mint alongside the Windows operating system, or erase the drive and install Linux as the only operating system of the computer or laptop. Since the format of the hard drive, the partitions of the Linux are completely different from the Windows operating system, you need to have empty space not partitioned, non non not par, unpar, not partitioned space on the hard drive in order to install Linux. Otherwise, you cannot do it. You cannot install Linux on the Windows file system because the structure of Windows file system is completely different, and Windows file system is based on one structure Linux file system, another structure, then it uses inodes file. You have in the Windows NTFS or FAT file system. In Linux, it is in the Windows, in the Linux, they all, there is also ext3, ext4 swap file system. If you want to install Linux anywhere in the advanced way, you need to know all the file system types and for which operation, which partition type you must select for your operating system. Otherwise, it's not working. In the Windows, you have a swap file. In the Linux, you have swap partition, not a file. It must be a partition. It is recommended to use a partition, multiple partitions of maximum 2 gigabytes. Total partition space that you need is twice the memory amount of the computer. For example, if you have 4 gigabyte of memory, you need 8 gigabyte of swap space, swap partition. If you have 16 gigabyte of memory, you need 32 gigabyte of swap partitions. However, you cannot have so many partitions in one hard drive. You need to have you can have totally 4 main partitions. One of them can be an extended partition, and inside that extended partition, you can have 4 other partitions. So this is a tricky. The best thing for you is to do the recommended partitioning and skip this part because it is very boring and you need to do a lot of calculations. You must know how your distribution, how much space requires for the boot, for the root, for the boot, for the everything. Skip that part. Those partitions, those distributions like Slackware do not have very nice graphic environment. Their installation program script looks like this. It's like an old DOS-based operating systems. And this is for the Vector Linux. These are the distributions that do not have any graphic environment at the beginning. You can select whatever you want, and after the installation, you can boot your computer to the graphic environment that you want, KDE or GNOME or whatever XFCE or that you want. Knowing what you want to do for the Linux is very important. If you want to install it as a server, you do not need KDE or GNOME, any graphic environment. Only you need only the servers, server daemons or server scripts, and that's all. If you want to use it as a desktop environment, you don't need all the server environments, you need the desktop environments. And if you want it for a development, for a web development specifically, then you need to have all of them. In that case, you need to install the servers, configure the web server, and uh, install your favorite software application, web application development environment, and use it. That's all. I know this is very confusing, and this might not look very sharp, very easy to use, but if you want to go through uh, installation of the Linux as a intermediate user, these informations are necessary. Experts know what they want to do, they know everything. Beginners, this is very difficult for them. At the beginning, it is recommended that you try Linux based on the defaults, based on the recommended settings. And after that, when you get familiar with how the operating system works, when you read all the how-to documentations, how the operating system works, how uh, to configure the operating system, how to configure the firewall, how to configure the every single environment, everything that are necessary on the installation. When you learned how to do the maintenance, then you can try on the partitioning and learning how to do that. In that case, you can configure your Linux in the way that you want. And next to that, what I recommend you is to, if you want to learn it perfect, and if you want to use the maximum performance of your hardware, you must build the kernel for your own computer. The default kernels that are downloaded and installed on your computer and are distributed by the uh, distributors of the Linux, those are general multipurpose kernel. It is not configured for your own hardware. They have so many libraries, drivers that you may never want to use them, and they may not have some of the uh, hardware information, hardware drivers that your hardware owns. So your hardware do not work perfect. When you compile the kernel for your own computer, then you will see the performance of the Linux in another way, specifically as a server or um, as a desktop too. When your computer works to its full performance, you will enjoy it. You will not have so many memory usage. You have minimum memory usage, minimum hard drive usage, minimum power usage, and you have maximum performance. This is the beauty of the Linux. Despite all the uh, difficult parts, despite all the hard uh, hard to learn concepts and working of the Linux, this is the beautiful part of it. To continue our talk about the Linux operating system, Babak will talk to you about the different graphical environments of the Linux, and how you can use it, how they are, what they are, how they work, and which one is the most smooth one and which one is most user friendly. I hope you like it. Thank you.
Hello everyone. First of all, I wish you all a very merry and blessed Christmas, and wishing you all the best and happiness for you and your beloved family, whoever watching this video. Today I want to talk about different distros of Linux. I tested lots of Linux distributions on my computer, and I wanted to know which one of them can cover, first of all, our needs as a completely non-professional user and as someone who is trying to replace Mac and Windows with Linux, just totally as a completely normal user who just want to surf the internet, write text, maybe books, magazines, if you're a writer, if you are a photographer, if you are even a video editor. But in other fields, honestly, I have no knowledge about that, so I do not consider myself qualified to talk about that. However, as a normal user who always try to cover my own needs, from writing, translating books, or editing videos for some organizations that I work for, or editing photos even, publishing books in all these fields. In these respects, I tried to see if I can replace Mac and Windows with Linux or not. So I checked a lot of videos over the internet. So many people, they have different suggestions. So many of them just try to say this Linux is so beautiful, this Linux is so fast, this Linux is stable. We all have heard that Linux is a solid, secure operating system. I do not know if this really is true or not. I'm not a developer, I'm not a programmer, I do not know coding. I just have to rely on whatever people say over the internet, over in Twitter, or those professionals who have been introducing different distros of Linux in YouTube. There are very great YouTubers who are working in this respect. So, according to what they say, I try to download and install the most popular Linux distros on my computer and see if I can work with it or not. So I tried 7 distros of Linux. The first one is MX Linux. MX Linux is based on Debian. To be honest, I downloaded it. I tried to install it. Installation was horrible. I couldn't even make the computer work because I couldn't make it restart. So I forget about that. The second Linux was Elementary OS. Elementary OS is based on Ubuntu, which Ubuntu is based on Debian. It is a very nice operating system, which I can say for those who are coming from Mac or Windows. It is nice. It is so easy to use. Installation is very fast. Well, basically all of them except MX Linux installation was really easy and fast. It requires no knowledge, no specific knowledge. Just like Windows, you're installing it, you can install it and it just works. I liked Elementary OS. The store that Elementary OS uses is very nice. They collected and gathered so many applications, and you can access so many applications to install or even purchase, or better to say donate to the developers. The second one is Zorin OS. Again, it is based on Ubuntu. I installed it on my PC and my Lenovo laptop. On my laptop, I have no issues so far. It gives me two desktops, since I have my laptop actually has two graphic chipsets, one NVIDIA and one Intel. And the one with Intel, it works really good. The one I have to choose, it is based on Wayland desktop, which is a new desktop for Linux operating systems. When I log in with Wayland desktop, NVIDIA chipset activates and it works really good. On my laptop, again, I have no problem. It's been 4 days now that I'm using this laptop without any problem. But I had really some issues on my PC, so I had to go back to the most solid operating system that I tested, which I will tell you at the end. The second one is Feren OS. Feren OS also is based on Ubuntu. It is a nice operating system. They worked polished, beautiful, and I liked it. The second one is Solus OS. It is a totally independent operating system. They didn't make it over any other ones like Debian or Arch or anything. They developed something from the ground to top. It was nice, it was interesting, it was quite fast. But again, I'd rather to check another one. Manjaro. Manjaro is based on Arch. They have been doing really good job in this respect. They're working on kernel as fast as they can for upgrades, for everything. It is quite fast. It is so reliable, I can say. The one I myself prefer so far, after all these tests that I had for the past 2 months, still is Fedora. Fedora is from Red Hat team. It is a vanilla version. Vanilla version, it doesn't have pre-installed applications, I may say. I downloaded Office, LibreOffice for that, which is great. Other applications from the store. The one that I have is KDE Plasma. It is very solid. So far, I haven't restarted my computer for the past 5 days. It just works without any issue. Applications are fast. It requires less RAM. At least, at most, it takes about 1.5 gigabyte of my 16 gigabyte of RAM. I currently have about um, 6 applications working, and recording this video right now, it has not reached even to 5 gigabyte of RAM. So everything is quite solid. For the conclusion, I must say that there is no best one in Linux world. The majority of the Linux that there are over the internet is quite selectable. You can select anything that you want. You can download anything, any Linux. It is free, and all of them have live operating system that you can run on a very small USB flash and just test it. If you like it, you can install it. If you don't like it, you can forget it and go back to your previous operating system and download another one and again check the other one. Here's a very interesting point. All of these applications that I installed on all of these Linuxes that I tested, all are available for all of the Linux distros. So it doesn't matter what distro that you are working. If it is elementary OS, if it is Fedora, if it is Red Hat, if it is MX Linux, no matter what. The only thing that is different is the desktop and, well, all of the things that is working in the background. So this is kind of a motto of Linux. Freedom is choice. You are free to download anything that you want. So again, at the end, Merry Christmas, everyone. Back to you, Daryoush.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you, Babak. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you for being with us during this period of time. I hope you have enjoyed the information that we provided, and I hope that you have learned you have gained some information about the operating system of the servers that are widely used on the internet. That not only it can be used as a server, internet server, but also it can be used as an alternative for the Windows operating system. Kurt, if you have, do you have any question? Is there anything to add?
Well, just be if there's any more insights again for takeaways, and if this is starting something for the viewers and listeners. Are you a resource for people to turn back to? Like if they're kind of stuck on something, do you take questions through your contact information, through your websites to help people? Okay.
Sure. If you have any questions, anything, feel free to send your questions to questions@aranet.tech. I would be very glad to talk to be in contact with you and help you. If you need any kind of help, you can contact us. We will be glad to help.
Sounds good. So that's about all I had.
Actually, since the early versions of the Linux I've been working with, and for so many things, I prefer Linux than the Windows or even Mac. I don't like Mac. Linux is my favorite operating system. I can do whatever I want with that. With Windows, no. And Windows has Windows has its own users. When you want to buy a computer, when you want to buy a laptop, no matter you want it or not, they provide it with a Windows operating system. For some period of time, the companies and producers of the laptops and the computers, they offered the computers without any operating system or with DOS operating system, so that you can select whatever operating system that you want on your hardware. And they were much cheaper, very much cheaper than the computers or laptops that they already have Windows installed on it. But Windows installation is a little tricky, and because of the so many distributions of the Linux, it is hard to consider or think which one is more suitable for me and which one can be installed on my hardware. So this is the reason that we decided to have some topics about the Linux on this show for those who are interested to learn this operating system, how it works, and how they can use it, and which distributions are mostly suitable for them. If you want to learn Linux, Slackware is ideal. By default, it goes into a text environment, no graphic environment. You have whatever you want to do, you must type the commands. And doing this will help you learn how to manage Windows, and this can lead you to learning how to become a server administrator. When you learn how to do everything, how to configure everything manually, how to troubleshoot, this is the best operating system for using it. Other operating systems use a graphical environment, and all those interfaces recommend do not touch the script files manually. It is better to only use the UI environment and save the changes through it. This is not the way that you can learn this operating system. And if something happens, you cannot administer or manage it remotely. This is the reason for this few series about the operating system. And the reason is that we start talking about how it is, how it works, so that we can then go to the security part of the operating system, how the firewall in the Linux works, and how to manage it, and how to make it secure. Once again, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. God bless you.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.